Welcome to Meet the Candidates 2020, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Our hope is that these candidate interviews and profiles will help you, the voter, understand your choices when it comes to casting your ballot in the 2020 elections. While we can all agree that an informed candidate is important, we believe informed voters make all the difference. So we ask you to arm yourself with the information necessary to make an educated choice and to make casting your vote a priority, regardless of how you do it this year, mail-in or in person. Please visit shakopee.org to find out all of the information you'll need to know about the upcoming election, including polling places and times, and a link to the Secretary of State website for mail-in voting options. Hi, and welcome to Meet the Candidates 2020, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Angie Whitcomb, and I'm joined today by candidate for Minnesota State House Representative District 55A, Erik Mortensen. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us here today.
Sure.
We appreciate
Thanks for
it.
putting it together.
Yeah. Tell the viewers at home a little bit about yourself, Erik.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my name is Erik Mortensen, and I was growing up right here in Shakopee. Down on 2nd Avenue there. And, we didn't have a whole lot growing up, but my parents fought to put us through the Catholic school. And I remember them arguing actually in the kitchen about the ability to even afford putting us through SACs. But it really instilled in my brother and I a work ethic to make sure that we'd succeed in life. And of course, that's what I want to pass on to my children, and the ability to pursue the American dream. But I worry that it's constantly under assault, and now more than ever. So I wanted to run for office and really make sure my children and future Minnesotans had the opportunity to pursue the same American dream that I've been afforded.
Great. So, Erik, let's dive right in here. What have you done in the past to influence the way that government operates?
Sure. I love the question because it's really the heart and soul of what I've been doing here the last 3 calendar years. Because the great thing about our form of government is you have the ability to influence how it operates and influence public policy. So in addition, obviously running for office 2 years ago and obviously this year, I've seen people who want to be engaged, people that are frustrated, people that are upset, but motivated and driven to make an impact. But they're standing there going, how do I do it? And I remember being there not too long ago. So I have reached out to these people as I find them, and I've brought them along and shown them how they can get involved and how their voice can be much louder at the Capitol. And how they can influence public policy. So I really assumed that leadership role in the community here over the last 3 years. And because I think the problem, and a lot of the people that I've been talking to and helping, they're tired of the state injecting itself into our lives, really our daily lives. And the problem of St. Paul siphoning so much of our incomes into the Capitol, where politicians sit and they fight over how they're going to dole out these goodies to their friends and their cronies and special interests. So I seek to end that and make sure people can keep their own money and we can skip the political fighting. So what I want to do at the Capitol is really expose these backroom deals, this political gamesmanship. I want to put shine sunlight on this disease in St. Paul, because I think that's a great disinfectant. But unfortunately, the career politicians in St. Paul, they don't want that to happen, and that's why they're fighting me so hard.
Great. So if you could write, sign, and pass 3 laws today, what would they be and why?
Yeah, so, I mean, only 3, and because there's a lot of work to be done. Yeah. But I think 3, if it was right now in this moment in time, the first one would be term limits. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, where you fall on the political spectrum. Most people believe that we shouldn't have people making a career off being a politician. Because unfortunately, when they start to pursue that, delivering results for their people is not important. All that matters is winning that next election. So I've actually signed a pledge to support term limits in Minnesota. So I put pen to paper, and I'm the only candidate that's done that. Number 2, I would say, right now we have Governor Walz. So I would repeal his emergency powers for the last 6 months, as anybody within earshot, and I mean across the world at this point, everybody knows sort of the dictatorship that we've been living under in Minnesota, or the 6 million of us are forced to live under whatever rules the governor comes up with. And of course, what he's been doing is illegal and unconstitutional. And just in Pennsylvania the other day, the courts overruled their governor's executive orders, and it's happening across the country. So I think what we should be doing is empowering people with information. Give us, the people, the information on this virus, and give us the best practices, which we all know by now, because you can't go 30 seconds without being told to social distance, wear a mask, or having X's on the floor. So we all know what to do. We know how to handle this thing, but for some reason the governor keeps treating this like it's an emergency. And unfortunately, my opponent has continuously rubber stamped these destructive policies by voting for them 6 times. And then number 3 would really be in response to what's been happening over the last 6 months. And our small businesses in Shakopee, I've been calling the business owners and listening to them, and they are reeling right now. And we're seeing businesses across the state just go under, and they're not coming back in a lot of times. No. And they're telling me when they're willing to be vulnerable that their sales are down 20, 30, 40% in some situations. Yeah. So I think it's appropriate, especially as being a chamber. So the members of the chamber, I'm sure they know exactly what I'm talking about. So they need a lifeline, and their employees need a lifeline. Yeah. So what I would like to do is put together a phasing out plan of this fiscal disparities tax, where, and I'm sure most people don't even know what this is, but on commercial property, 40% of that property tax doesn't even stay in Shakopee. 40% of our businesses in the 7-county metro area, 40% goes to other communities. It's even advertised through the Metropolitan Council as a wealth redistribution program. So as Shakopee has made the decision to invest in our commercial tax base, other communities have chosen either not to, or they just failed to do so. So Shakopee is a net loser with this wealth redistribution program. And I don't think it's right for us to subsidize these other communities that either fail or don't even try to develop their own tax base. So that would take a massive burden off of our local businesses.
Great. Thank you. Moving on. How should the state of Minnesota balance the concerns between public health and the economy, and what role should the legislature have in that process?
Sure. Well, I've already kind of touched on it. Yeah. I feel like we should repeal the governor's emergency powers. The legislature is fully capable. In fact, it's the only branch of government that is able to make law. So they can do exactly what the governor has been doing illegally and unconstitutionally. And I would even take a step back and just kind of get philosophical, I guess, is with life comes risk. If you decide you're going to sit on the couch and eat Doritos and watch Netflix all day long, that lifestyle has a risk. If you get in your car and get on the freeway and go 70 miles an hour, you're assuming some risk. So the precedent that I'm scared of is the governor, one man or woman, deciding how much risk is tolerable for Minnesotans. And when that one man or woman decides we have exceeded whatever that tolerance is, with their own personal whims, that they declare state of emergency, and they alone consume all the power. I don't think it matters where you fall in the political spectrum. The idea of one person running a state, it's not appeasing, and it's not who we are. It's not the American way, and it's certainly not the America I want my kids to live in. Then as far as the legislature's role, I mean, the legislature's role in the legislative process, it doesn't change based on the issue. They are the branch that's supposed to create law, and that's why they're called lawmakers.
Great. Thank you. So according to the State Budget Office, Minnesota is facing a projected budget shortfall of $2.4 billion for the biennium ending July of 2021. How do you propose that be addressed?
Yeah. I mean, so $2.4 billion is a lot of money, and yes, the state brought in more money last quarter than they anticipated. So who knows where this number will ultimately end up being. Yeah. But when you look at $2.4 billion on a budget of $50 billion, that's 4.8%, or call it 5%. Now, I guarantee any of the chamber members watching this, if they were to be told, hey, how about after all this COVID ordeal, in 1 year from now, when the state budget is set to expire, what if you only missed your budgeted revenue by 4.8%? They would be ecstatic. They'd be doing cartwheels in the streets. But for some reason, when it's the state government, it seems to be treated as some sort of a sacred cow, which I've never understood. Because I think the answer is doing exactly what we've all been doing. These businesses are taking 20, 30, 40% hits. And when your expenses exceed your income, you need to balance that. And we do the same thing in our personal lives. I've had to make very difficult decisions as a business owner. When I had lunch with my biggest client, and he said, "We're not going to use you anymore." And I thought, why did you take me to lunch to tell me this? Then he offered me a job. But of course,
there you go.
I had to go back to my office and go, wait a minute, this is a third of my business. And I've got to stare at my overhead and go, I've got to make some difficult decisions. The problem is politicians don't want to make difficult decisions because the most of them only worry about winning their next election. So when we look at the growth of the state budget, it's grown 50% in the last 10 years. So a $2.4 billion deficit, all we'd have to do is go back to 2017 spending levels. And in 2017, we've all remember it, we were pretty civilized. In fact, a lot of people would say we were more civilized in 2017 than what we have going on right now. So that would be what I would say, is we just go back to 2017 spending levels.
Great, thank you. Moving on to the next question. What are the causes of civil unrest in Minnesota, and what are the best solutions? There's an easy question, right?
Yeah, I just met with the police chief, and we talked a lot about this. And, you know, when you look at what's happening in our society, well, first of all, there's just this moral decay that I think anybody who looks at things honestly can go, things just aren't the way they used to be. But we're also incredibly quick to judge. And we have a 24/7 news cycle that cares way more about being the first to deliver news than they care about delivering the news accurately. So what we see now is this sliver in time of a 3-second video of something happening that can look outrageous and look just clear cut. And then, of course, we make our judgment, and we see this civil unrest is, I guess, the polite way of putting it, the rioting and looting and burning buildings to the ground. And just this week, 2 police officers being executed or attempted to execute in their squad car. So when you look at this, and, you know, I'm a parent, and when you don't punish negative behavior quickly and appropriately, you get more of that behavior. So I see the same thing happening here, especially with the rush to judgment. You know, in Minneapolis just 2 weeks ago, there was a murder-suicide incident, or a murderer is quickly cornered by the police. The murderer takes their own life, but instead of waiting for these facts to come out, people stormed to the streets. And I was watching this live on Facebook Live, and literally watching the comments strolling in saying, "Let's go looting." So I think it takes patience, and we need to sit back and allow the facts to come out. And then we also need to make sure when things get out of hand, we uphold the law. I don't think that's asking very much, but we have Democrat mayors and governors across the country that were permitting these things to happen, the burning down of police precincts. Now there's calls for defunding the police, abolishing the police. And I think one way or another, they're going to get it in some of these communities because no cops are going to even want to go to work. So that's what I worry about. And unfortunately, we even have a vice presidential pick for Joe Biden. Kamala Harris the other week said she is encouraging this lawlessness to continue through the election. And my own opponent refuses to denounce the actions of John Thompson, a Democrat running for Minnesota State House, when he went to Hugo, Minnesota, and threatened to burn the city down and beat effigies of a police officer and the police officer's wife in front of the police officer's children. When we have leaders that refuse to denounce behavior like that, they're not leading, they're pandering. So the answer, it's really not all that difficult, because for the vast majority of our existence, we've had law and order. It's uphold the law. It's punish people who break the law in an appropriate fashion. And it's making sure that the people are empowered to protect themselves, because the police can't be everywhere. And in fact, I worry about the sustainability of policing with what we have happening right now with them being villainized.
Great. Thank you. So as we wrap up here, take the next 30 seconds or so to give your closing statement and tell the voters what you want from them this election season.
Sure. Well, this is a choice election, and I feel the choices are very clear. I stand for tax cuts, spending cuts, supporting our small businesses and the workers of Minnesota, where my opponent has voted for increased property taxes, increased sales taxes, increase vehicle registration taxes. He's increased gas taxes. He's even on the House floor joking that he would like to call some of these the Tabke tax. I'm for law and order. He condones looting and rioting. I'm a business person. I'm always going to be a business person. I'm not here trying to launch a career in politics. I believe the secret to life is simply doing what you said you would do. And that's how I would behave as a legislator when my opponent has the reputation, and he's earned it, of saying one thing and doing something else. It's my belief our time is running out to fight for and preserve the American dream. And that's what I'll do in the Capitol. And I ask for your vote on November 3rd.
Thank you for joining us today, Erik.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this edition of Meet the Candidates 2020. Thank you for watching Meet the Candidates 2020, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Please visit our website at shakopee.org for all of the information you'll need to know leading up to the November 3rd election.